Hello, everybody. Welcome back to It's Cosplay Time. As always, I am Chris, aka Mr. Zoom _2028.
And I am Harley Francis, aka Gotham Gal Cosplay, or Harley _F.Quinn.
And today we are here with special guest.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shawn Baichoo, and I play Lion in Rainbow Six.
Yes. Oh, I'm excited to hear all about this.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for being
here. Alrighty, so I'm assuming you're going to start with the questions.
Indeed.
Right? Okay,
First question. What made you want to get into voice acting?
Okay, well, before I answer that, I should qualify that for me, at least, voice acting is a subset of what I do. I'm not just a voice actor. Like, I do theater, film, voice, motion capture, stunt fighting, choreography, and like a whole bunch of stuff. So
we're just the whole 9 yards.
Maybe 8 of the 9 yards. I'm a classically trained actor, so I went to theater school. I did the 3-year program. I graduated, and then I started, pounding the pavement, got myself an agent, did some plays, did some indie films, did some TV, did some commercials, did some radio, and eventually I kind of drifted into mocap and voice, which is the two domains I seem to have the most success in. So I do a lot of voice work, it's true. But I wouldn't say I'm a voice actor. So I never went into voice acting. I pursued acting as a whole, and being a voice actor is kind of like the result of that. I kind of go wherever the work pops up. So I initially thought I'd be working a lot more in film and in television when I first graduated. And I also thought I'd be working more in French because I'm bilingual and I live in Quebec, and there's a pretty thriving French entertainment industry here. And none of that actually wound up being the case. I had never heard of motion capture until a few years after I graduated, and then I fell into that. I loved it. Turns out I was pretty good at it for a number of reasons, not just related to my studies, but who I am as a person, what I like, and what I'm into. I just started working for Ubisoft, and then I got in on the Assassin's Creed series. I played Machiavelli, and then I played a bunch of other characters, and then I was in like almost every single Assassin's Creed game in some capacity. And then over time, I worked on other Ubisoft games, so like For Honor, Watchdogs, which is huge for me. Rainbow Six came along eventually. And what's really cool with Rainbow Six is this was years ago. Years ago, I got cast as Lion, and I just thought it was some game like any other. But now it's like number one for in the world. There's tons of operatives now. There's events. There's Extraction coming out. So that's been really great too. That I've had a chance to kind of come back every once in a while and reprise Lion. That's kind of the dream I find as an actor, of getting recurring work. If you're like a regular on a TV series or in a series of movies, like if you're in the MCU, for example. So being part of a franchise, Assassin's Creed, Watchdogs, Rainbow Six, that's great. I get to return and play characters I love. So that's how I became an actor and went into voice acting. As for why did I go into it? I've always been a jokey guy. I love entertaining ever since I was a kid. I have a crazy imagination. I'm very creative. I love expressing myself. I love movement, martial arts. I'm a huge fan of sci-fi, comic books, video games, movies, all sorts of fandoms. I'm a huge nerd. And I wanted to explore that. And I didn't think acting was even possible, because to me, any actors I saw were always like Hollywood people, and that seemed like an impossible pipe dream, especially if you're living in Montreal. But over time, I found my niche. Mocap really seemed to be where I was best, in voice work and video games, which is a medium I love. So I have a lot of passion when I work on projects, because I kind of put in the work I want to see in the games I play. Funny aside, I initially, after graduating high school, went into biochemistry. So I was going to be a biochemist originally, and then I didn't really like it. I wasn't feeling like satisfied and fulfilled. So I did a bit of a 90-degree turn from biochemistry into acting, and then I found my true calling. And I haven't looked back since. So you.
Oh, I love that. Man, telling the true struggles of everything that's happened. I love that.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say struggle. I mean, it wasn't easy. Acting's not
Yeah,
easy.
you got to put in the work, and like it's not something that's just like, oh, thank you, thank you. It's like you have to actually get yourself up and get yourself out there. And
Yeah, exactly. And often people telling me like, "Oh God, you're so lucky. You do mocap. You're lucky to be a
yeah,
voice. You're
but
lucky." And
you
I'm
worked
like,
for it.
exactly. In all modesty, not to subtract from what people are saying, but I don't think luck has all that much to do with it. It's not like I bought some lottery tickets and they drew my name and
Yeah,
said you get to play wrench.
exactly.
I wasn't pumping gas at a gas station and then someone's like, "I like your look, kid. You're gonna be in the movies." Like
Yes.
it was hundreds of rejections, not getting parts,
Yes.
bit parts, overnight shoots, student films, shitty theater. You build yourself up. You learn who you are. Any artist, whether you're an actor, a visual artist, whatever, musician, you build yourself up as an artist through what you like and what you don't like, what you succeed in, what you fail in. So I find for a lot of the successful actors I know, for a lot of people, myself included, it's usually about roughly a 10-year journey to go from I want to be an actor or I just graduated and how do I be an actor to I'm confident, I'm working, I know who I am, I know what I have to offer. So now it's I guess easier in a sense. Not that I'm not working as hard,
Well,
but
you
there's some
passed that
certainty.
first initial bump.
Yeah, there's less anxiety, and I used to doubt myself a lot. I got my first ever part on a TV show in a show called Big Wolf on Campus. Um, it was my first ever union credited work, and as happy as I was to have it, I'm like, yeah, but I got the part because I know the casting lady and she likes me and she was trying to find me some work. And then I came back on the show and I'm like, oh, well, that's because it was this. And then I got a commercial and then I got a thing. And I was always like, well, I knew the casting guy or
You're always making excuses.
I was always making excuses as to why I wasn't just going out there, measuring up against everyone else who was going out for the same thing and just being selected. To be clear, not winning. That's a misconception. You don't win a part. I don't beat someone out for a part. I'm either right for it or not. Someone else could be better for a part than I do. It doesn't always have to do with the talent.
Yes. I like that.
So
to look at it.
Yeah, so you kind of look at it, like that. But anyway, all this to say that, not to go into too big a tangent, but also say that through your successes, your failures, all that, you kind of find out who you are as an actor, and then your experience makes you ready to take on opportunities when they come along. And when opportunity meets that preparedness or experience, that is what's called luck, because then you get the part, for example. So, Lion in some way, I got cast as him because I'd worked on Assassin's Creed, and while working at Assassin's Creed, I worked with a lot of French people from France because it's a French company, and a lot of the team was from France. So I'd hear these guys talking like 8 hours a day, and I'm very much into dialect work and imitation and stuff. So I just started like putting that in the bank. You could call that like preparedness, I guess. And then one day, like, hey, can you come audition for an operator in this game? He's French. Can you do a Parisian accent? I'm like, yeah, I can actually. So I just literally just pulled out one of those guys, in my mind, and I just did that. And it was just what they were looking for. It could have been someone else who was cast. I could have been having an off day and not be on top of my game. Then it wouldn't have been meant for me. So
yeah,
a lot of it is just circumstance, but it's also like the machine gun approach. I audition for hundreds of projects a year, and I work on, if I'm lucky, maybe a dozen. I don't really count how many I'm working on, but you can't measure your success as an actor just on how many auditions do you get when you audition for them, or like it's what parts do you connect with, what lets your work shine through. Like I think I've been blessed that for Lion, for Wrench, for the Outlast games, all the other stuff I've done, I've always had a nice opportunity to play very diverse characters or different and come from a different place, express themselves differently. And I've always managed to connect with them on some fundamental level, which makes the audience connect with them. So
yes,
it's a whole process, but yeah, I just wanted to circle back to the answer. I just wanted to entertain people, and I really find myself blessed to be working in an industry that I love the most. Like I love movies, but I think I prefer video games, and that's what I get to work in, so I'm very happy about that.
That is awesome. Oh, I love that so much. Well, I actually have a question for you that kind of bounces off of that. So, like, I know that once you have a demo reel of everything that everything you are, I guess, what is the best way to put yourself out there? Like, I know it's hard work doing that.
I mean, there are markers or milestones you need to cross. There's a process, I guess. I come across a lot of people who ask me for advice or coaching, and they're like, I want to be a voice actor. And, how do I do what you do? And I can tell people are often hoping I'll say something like, oh, just come by the studio and I'll put you behind the mic. And if you can do a cartoon voice, you can be a voice actor. And it's not just about changing your voice or having good mic technique or having a good voice or being able to do dialects. It's about the craft of acting, right? The majority of the study I did in school was dramaturgy, character, pacing, motivation, like all these things that make a scene, all the things that are invisible to a lot of people. When you watch Nero and Pacino acting, you're not like, oh, here he's deconstructing this, no, you're just enjoying this interaction.
Yeah, you're caught up in it, and you're like, oh, I love this.
Yeah, but it's fake though. They're not actually having an argument. It's fake, yet you still believe it, right? That's the craft of acting. Like I was actually having this discussion with an actor not long ago, and kind of coming to the realization that, like, you look for truth in acting, but the one thing you will never really get in acting is truth, because you'll never be in a truthful situation. When I say I'm sending out a drone or frag out or incoming, that's never captured when someone's actually throwing a grenade at me or I'm actually throwing out a drone. I'm faking the fear, the adrenaline, the projection, the environment. I'm creating all that to have that illusion, right? So, that's the core of acting, of performance. It's not just, oh, I've got a good voice. It's how do I use that voice? It's an instrument. How do I use that tool? How do I use that instrument? You can be an avid musician, but you need to practice your guitar to be good at your guitar eventually. And no one starts off at this great level, So
practice your crap, you're gonna lose it.
But exactly. So what I suggest is, there's a lot of steps to take to become an actor, and it really depends what you want to do. But in general, I tell, if you have a demo, that's great. But a demo only takes you so far. Your key to get into the acting world and to the big projects like Rainbow Six and Watchdogs and stuff I've worked on is an agent. You really need an agent. I know some actors who are self-represented, but that's tough. And I know that might work differently in the States or in Europe. Here in Montreal, maybe it's a bit of a different thing. Where are you guys based out of, by the way?
I am Dallas, Texas, and I think
San Antonio.
Okay.
You're in San Antonio?
Yeah.
Dude, I thought you were in California.
Yeah, I moved 3 weeks ago, I think.
Hey, you're like 4 hours away from me, bro.
Impromptu hangout.
Right.
If you have a demo, that's great. But an agent's the person who gets you the opportunities, who gets your demo to the right people. I know some people who don't have an agent, and they'll go to a studio they know, especially if they know the director or producer there, or someone who runs the studio, and be like, hey man, can I give you my demo? Can you listen to it? And sometimes they'll say yes, and they'll keep it in mind. The problem is you're now putting the burden of casting on that person as opposed to on your agent, who's your representative, right? So exactly. So let's say Harley is producing a video game, and one of the characters she needs is it's like a African American man in his 30s who's a mercenary. Okay, she'll then send out this casting call to an agency who's taking care of finding her actors. So there's casting agencies here in Montreal, and that agency will get the breakdown and then send those breakdowns to all the agents they have on their roster. And the agent gets the breakdown and goes, okay, who do I have in my roster who's an African-American man in his 30s who can play a military type? So for example, I wouldn't get suggested for that because I'm not African-American, but you say you have two actors, you then submit them. The casting agency will then go, great, I'll see him. and this guy, I'm not going to see him because he's too new and I don't know him, and this is a very like private type of thing. We don't want to see too many actors. And then your agent might go, oh no, dude's really good. He's blowing up. He actually was in the military. You really should listen to this guy.
So
Like,
from
okay,
your agent's
fine.
mouth and not just
Send me
yours.
his tape. You know, so they'll push for you sometime under the right circumstances. Not too much because they don't want their word to be. You know, if my agent says I'm amazing at everything she submits me, that everything she gets, they're going to stop believing her. I'm good. I'm versatile, but I can't do everything. Right? You got to focus on your strengths. So an agent will help be the go-between, and they'll do other things too that are important, like, you know, let's say the casting agency gets the submission, gives it to the client. The client's like, wow, I really like this guy. Can we bring him in for a callback? Here's the shooting dates. Is he free? That'll go to the agent. The agent will then go to the actor, as opposed to calling the actor directly. You know what I mean? And saying, are you free? You know, can you send me can you show up tomorrow for a callback? I might be on set. I might be busy. I have a life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So your agent really is the one who, and then you know, my agent negotiates my salary, for example. Like,
Really?
you know,
Wow,
yeah.
really?
So like for
Everything.
projects like, oh, we're offering just scale. She might be like, well, you know, Shawn is really interested in the project, but he played Wrench, he played Lion, he played this. He's very in demand. He can't do every project, but if you pay him X amount, maybe, you know, not we're not trying to swindle people clearly, but we're trying to get our due. You know, get your worth. Everyone should get their worth. Any artist, especially, it's interpretive. You know what I mean? And I'm the first one to say that Ubisoft, anyone who works with me, always gets more than their money's worth because
You go
in
all
all
out.
honesty, I'm good at my job. I know my work. I'm professional. I'm on time. I'm pleasant to be around. I've got the right skills. I'm super modest. No, but but you know, confidence is
It's
okay.
the bread.
You need a certain amount of confidence in this industry. If I don't believe I'm good at something, the client certainly won't. The audience won't.
Yeah.
If I don't believe it, you know. So you know, you need an agent to help you with that. A good demo that shows who you are and what you can do, like you said, Harley. It's not necessarily to show everything you've done. Like I've done some projects, my demo would be like 2 hours, but no one's gonna listen to that. You pick your best work. You pick what best represents who you are, what your strengths are. Is it dialects, different voices? Is it narration? You know, what are you good at? Is it tough guys? Is it nerds? Whatever. Um, you know, so a good demo, an agent, and if I can go a step back in the other direction before the demo, I cannot stress enough how important it is to both get training in acting. It doesn't have to be a 3-year program like I did. It can be a class, a weekly class at the local theater that they give. It could be improv. It could be.
You just answered one of my questions, actually.
Yeah, it could be a dramaturgy class. You know, just to get familiar with, you know, the kind of questions you have to ask yourself as an actor if you're trying to find that truth. You know, like when I get a script, the first thing I always ask myself when I read the script is, what does my character want? And how is he going to go about getting it? What are the tools at his disposal? What are his obstacles? Who is he? Where?
Know who he is.
Yeah. What time is it? How does he feel about this? What reveals his, you know, oh, this line reveals his insecurity. How do I communicate that? You know, it's not just I pick up lines, I put on a French accent, and I read the lines. You know, there's a lot of subtlety in voice.
There's
in
more
all
to it.
acting. With voice, especially, you don't have your face to sell it. You just have your voice. So it can get a little tricky to find and communicate that truth. So I'd say, you know, study acting, also study technique. Dramaturgy, improv, theater classes, they won't teach you how to use a mic. And there's also a technical aspect to using a mic in voice work. You got to be on axis, but you got to watch your plosives so you're not popping. You got to watch, you know, your levels so you're not too hot or too cold. You know, all sorts of stuff I won't go into now because it'd be a technical interview. But you need that stuff to go in. And that's the thing, like some people are hoping I'll just be like, come to the studio.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the second they step behind the mic, they'd fall apart because they'd be like, oh, I didn't think this through. I don't know what I'm doing.
I didn't think I'd get this far, man.
Right? It's like if you go into a bar and you pick a fight with a guy and he's like, okay, let's go. You're like, I just remembered I don't know how to fight. Why did I do this? Right? And now time is money. The producer's there. The client's there. The other clients on Zoom from China because you're doing a Chinese video game. And there's a lot of writing here. You don't have to, how does this work? Can you teach me how to? you got to come in prepared, and that I got through training, but also through experience over time, smaller projects and bigger projects. So get training, get a demo, get an agent, and then put yourself out there and get ready for a lot of rejection. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, I get rejected.
The road to success is paved in failure, as far as I've ever heard.
Exactly. And look, no one's really going to point to me and go, well, what the fuck does he know? He's a failure. Like, I think I'm relatively successful as an actor.
Yeah, but look,
I could be more successful, and that's what I'm working towards. But my point is, I'm a fairly successful guy, and I'll be the first to tell you, I don't get most of the auditions I apply for. Some I'm like, I don't know if I connect. Some I'm like, this is me. This is mine.
Yes.
Doesn't matter. Still don't get
it.
Right?
Man.
Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, they're never going to cast me as this guy. Fine, I do it. Next thing I know, call back, you got the part. You can't know. You can't know how other people perceive you. So do your best. Learn when you fail, especially when you're first starting out, get feedback. If you do an audition at a casting agency, get your agent to call them. Say, can you find out how I did? Anything to work on? Right? Agent will talk to the person when they have a chance and be like, listen, they got back. They said you were really good, but you were really nervous. You got to work on your nerves. You were very fidgety and it was very distracting. Okay, I'll work on that. I'll try auditioning.
So the agent much takes out the emotion in the business.
They take out the personal aspect. Not that I need impersonal, but a client doesn't want to negotiate with me for my salary.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to work out with me my schedule. You know what I mean?
There's someone there that knows, or that knows you and can do it for you, but so exactly. It's not from your mouth.
Right. I mean, she'll check with me for everything. If she wants to negotiate for a higher salary, she'll run it by me first. If they want to know when I'm free, she doesn't assume she has my calendar, but she'll be like, do you have any unavailabilities in the week of the 24th? And I'll be like, Wednesday morning is not great, but I can come in if needed. And Thursday I'm no good because I'm up north, whatever. Then she'll transmit that to the client. The client might be like, oh, we really need him on Thursday. It's super important. Then my agent will negotiate or come back, as opposed to they keep calling me or texting me when I'm on vacation or at the dentist or whatever. And now I didn't get back to the production for 12 hours because I was on set. Now they can't move forward with the casting or whatever because they haven't heard back from the client, from the actor. So it's just that extra, like my agent's like almost like my manager too. She's not just my agent, but she manages my time, my availability, my accessibility. Some people contact her to get an interview sometimes, so she'll run that by me. Some people contact me directly, and that's fine. Or if an independent production, like I'm about to do an independent film at the end of the month, which I'm very excited about, he got in touch with me to say, do you want to do this? I'm like, sure. But in terms of hours, work conditions, pay, talk to my agent. So I don't have to do that with them. And then it doesn't become like, let's say they're saying, oh, we'll give you $500 a day. And I'm like, no, I want, $1,500 a day. You might go, Jesus Christ, this guy's greedy. We don't have any money. We can't afford that. Now his opinion of me is impacted. But if my agent says, I think my client deserves $1,500 a day, the guy might still say, well, I'm sorry, we just can't afford that. We can do 800. And she'll go, okay, let me talk to him. We'll see. He's not unreasonable. He's really excited about the project. He wants to do it. It becomes a negotiation, and it's not, even though it's me making the decisions, they're not the ones dealing with me having to make those decisions. And more importantly, I don't have realtors. That shit would make me so anxious. Like, oh, I got to call at 3. We got to talk fucking salary, and I got to convince them I'm worth X amount. I don't want to do that. You know what I mean?
Man, so they take a lot of anxiety off your shoulders.
For sure. And an agent's incentive to get you work is that they get a percentage of what you make. Now, there are shady agents out there, and this is a word of advice for anyone looking to get into acting, whether it's just voice acting or if you're focusing just on voice acting or film or whatever. Any agent, at least in Canada, any agent who asks for money up front is a bad agent, because then they don't have an incentive to work for you, right? My agent's going to get me that big paying job. She's going to get a piece of that pie, which is going to be good for her. But if I'm like, here's $500, as an administration fee to join your agency, then she'll be more focused on getting people to join her agency than she will to get people work, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's this reciprocal agreement between us that the harder it's symbiotic. The harder she works to get me work, the more I work, the more I make, the more she makes, the more incentive she has to get me more work, right? That works out great. So yeah, training, technique, demo, agent, and then take your victories where you can find them. As a bit part here, a commercial there, whatever. And no work is bad work. All work is good work. All work is experience. And then last thing I would say is, if you're an actor, if you're creative and you're not working, you don't have an outlet to be professional, create your own work. Just make your own work. No matter what it is, something that's dear to you, something you love. If you're like, oh, I wrote a fanfic for World of Warcraft because I'm a big fan, do that. Get in the booth, get your mic, whatever, record all the voices, build that scene. They could be on your demo maybe, or you could show it to a friend, or who knows, right? Like, as long as you're not expecting to have a direct return from everything you do, because that'll shatter you, right? If you're like, oh, I did 50 auditions, I'm bound to get one. Nope, you got none of them. Do you quit? Or do you go, okay, maybe I'll get one of the next 50 or the next 50? You know, I heard once that Mark Ruffalo got refused for like 600 auditions before he booked something. He's the Hulk. He's doing pretty well, I'd say. So you never know, right? You just kind of have to be. That's where belief in yourself kicks in a lot too. Like now I know I'm a good actor.
That's where that confidence comes in.
Yeah. So, you got to pace yourself and kind of play the long game because, most people eventually kind of price themselves out of this business because they just can't deal with the insecurity, uncertainty, and the soul crushing nature of it. If you invest too much, if you associate your worth as a person too much with how much work you're getting, it could be really devastating. And I see some people I know, friends or people I know online, that they work very hard. Sometimes people don't get the return they're hoping for and they take it personally. And I know that's brutal, but it's not personal. That's the thing. There's so many factors you can't control in this industry. You can't take that personally, right? I'll lose out to someone else, not lose, but I won't get cast instead of someone else because maybe I remind the producer of her ex-boyfriend that he was a fucking jerk. So she just doesn't like me for some reason. That's not my fault. I don't even know that, right? I once had a casting director. I was a reader at an audition. I was helping their cast. I once had a director turn to the casting person after the woman left, who was perfect for the part. And the woman's like, isn't she great? And she's like, nah, she's too Asian. That was his comment. Some racist shit like that. She's too Asian. I'm like, first of all, why'd you see her? If you don't like Asian people, don't waste your time. That woman had to prepare, learn her lines, block off time on her schedule, commute here, wait, perform, commute back, and you're not even going to consider her because of something she can't control. So there's a lot of that in the industry, okay? There's some racism, but also there's a lot of ignorance and there's a lot of, like any industry, right?
Yeah.
Game development, whatever. Everything has that to some extent. So if you take that stuff personally, maybe it's 10 minutes before lunch and they've been seeing crap actors all morning and you come in and you're great, but that guy's thinking about his Whopper. Hi, what's your name? Sean. Great. Yeah, that Whopper is going to be so good. Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you for coming. Let's lunch, people. That guy's focused way more on eating than on your performance. Again, not my fault. You know what I mean? So you do your best. You can't take it personally. When your time comes, it comes. And when you're right for something, you'll know it. But it's like I said, like I just spoke at length of this, but it's a long process. Like I said, it took me about 10 years of small successes and failures, alternating dry periods, busy periods, great opportunities, dud projects, and that's just auditions. You'll also be like, oh, you got the part. Really? Yeah, it's 2 months of shooting. You start next week and we're going to fly you to LA. And you're like, I finally made it. Oh my God, I've made it. And then a week before you leave, they're like, hey, Sean, listen, the client changed their mind. The producers don't want you. The director wanted you, but the producers changed their mind. So you don't have the part, right? that would kick most people's asses, right? You're all invested in your future, making plans. I'm going to buy a house. Maybe we should move. Nope, false alarm. It's not commonplace, but it certainly happens. So, if you can handle that, all rejections aren't a big deal. That's happened to me, maybe not on that scale, but I had a few big gigs line up and then last minute, for some reason, it just didn't work out. So now I have a more pragmatic approach. If I get cast, I'm like, that's great. Once the contract is signed, even better. And when I show up for the first day on set or get into the booth,
that's when it's like, all right.
Yes, it's happening, right? Because there's a lot of variables in the industry. So a tough skin is probably the last thing I'd say you need. I know that seems like a lot of steps, but
it makes sense.
But there's a misconception that people think I just need to be discovered. I'm special, or I'm the exception. If someone can just discover me, I'll walk into the booth and I'll wow them all. And no, like, as great as I think I am as Wrench and Lion and everyone I do, sure, talent has something to do with it, but that's mostly the result of just practice and experience and 100 other projects you've never heard of that all build me up to become this. Like, they're even based on my pop culture likes. It's also based on me just embracing who I am. What do I like? I don't put aside my nerddom as an actor. It's one of my greatest strengths. The reason why Wrench is so popular is because he's nonstop quoting pop culture. That's from me. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a part of you and your character.
Yeah, I mean, all actors inject who they are into their character. That's probably the best truth you can find, is how much of this person is me and how can I build upon that, So yeah, it's a tough road, but ultimately take those steps, persevere, don't give up, and eventually, if it's meant to be, it'll happen. But it's just not always meant to be too, and you got to be pragmatic about that too. If you're happy doing it, like I heard someone once say that if you're passionate about something artistic that you wanted to do professionally, it's also okay to just do that as your hobby or as your passion, and without hanging your fortunes on success. It's very cutthroat. It's very binary. That'll relieve so much stress. I'm not saying anybody who wants to be a voice actor give up and record fanfic things in your in your office. But it's also okay that if you're really into certain aspects of it and it's too hard to make it professionally, you're not a failure if you reinterpret that in a new way. You know what I mean? Like, the 19 people who graduated my finishing year in theater school, 19 of us graduated. None of those people today are actors. None of them. Just me. I'm the only one working professionally as an actor. Everyone else is doing other stuff, but a lot of those people are doing acting related stuff. He's a director. He's a cinematographer. He's a producer for online content for a web series. She's a stand-up comic. Some people are, okay, she skydives now, and it's got nothing to do with acting. But my point is, like, you need to go through something artistic sometimes to see if it's even meant for you. Just because you're interested doesn't mean you'll be good at it or satisfied doing it. You can use that as a stepping stone to see what else you want to do. And like I said, I thought I'd be like, I'm going to do film and TV and like martial art movies and stuff. And in the end, I'm wearing a skin tight suit with reflectors. I'm in a voice booth all the time, and I'm super happy. But I never would have envisioned that. Like I've told people before, if I defined success, what does success mean to me when I first graduated? If I defined it then, by today's standards, I wouldn't be successful, because I've done almost none of the stuff I thought I should do to be successful. But instead, I'm doing stuff I never thought I'd do in ways I never thought I'd do it. So, that's what's exciting about video games too, is they're so tied to technology that how we make them, how we capture performances, how we integrate actors is evolving over time. And this nexus, this singularity is approaching between film, TV, video games, VR, you know what I mean? So I'm excited. What'll it be like to be an actor in video games 10 years from now, 20 years from now? You know what I mean? Are we going to have like brain tape technology where we get your performance straight from your brain? Is it going to be VR stuff? Already I see motion capture technology continuously evolving, from bulky suits with cables sticking out of your head to like wireless hands-free suits you can wear anywhere. So it's, if you're willing to evolve with the industry and change with it and adapt as an artist, you know, it'll help you go further for sure.
That is some detailed advice.
Sorry,
Thank
I
you.
tend to go on.
No, do not apologize. Do not apologize. My brain right now is just
drink up.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw for that the mocap suits. There's some YouTubers now have like an at-home rig that they stream with for those.
Yeah, I did an interview with. Is it Tom Clancy or Thom Clancy? I don't know if you pronounce the H in his name. He's Tom Clancy's son, actually. And he has like a podcast, and we did the interview, and he had like this avatar. It wasn't him. It was like this, I forget what it was. And it would just like, he had a rig that tracked him. So when he would move or gesticulate, you know, in real time, I was talking to this like digital avatar, which was pretty cool. So that's definitely coming. That's definitely coming.
All right.
Technology.
Right. The world we're going with the technology now it's scary, but I want to see what happens.
Yeah, oh, it's definitely scary. But any new technology can be used for good or evil. You know what I mean? Really, what do we do with it? You know what I mean? Like, deep fake can be great for, you know, tweaking a performance of someone who's passed on in the middle of a production, for example, versus framing someone as a racist. You know, if you fake them being somewhere they shouldn't have been, or, you know, it's kind of a double-sided coin.
Yeah, depends on how you use it.
Like everything.
Okay, my second question is, have you been to a convention since voicing Lion?
Yeah. I actually started doing the circuit a few years ago, maybe 2-3 years before the pandemic hit, because that put a stop to everything. When Watchdogs first came out, I did a little tour with the rest of DeadSec, the group in the game. That was fun. We did Montreal Comic Con, Ottawa Comic Con, Fan Expo. I was a guest, I think, Laval Comic Con. Laval's a small, like, suburb north of the city here. I love Comic Cons. I love meeting fans. The majority of people who come to cons usually come to see me for my work as Wrench. I'd say he's the most popular character I've done. Then I'd say it's probably a Lion would be second. I actually got invited to the Rainbow Six Invitationals when they were held here. I forget when, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Me and a whole bunch of the other Montreal-based actors, so Patricia Somerset, Carla Mastroni, Ash, Thermite, Tachanka, I forget who else was there, but we all lined up at a table. We had fans coming through, getting autographs, talking to us. That was super cool. I was blown away by the size of the Invitational. It was like the Olympics. It was so densely packed with people. It was amazing. And the level of play I witnessed was like incredible. So yeah, I've done cons. But cons are tough because if you're not on a project that's big at the time, it's easy to lose a bit of relevance. And not to put myself down, but one of the downsides of being a video game actor is you're less recognizable overall, right? Like film actors, their face is their trade. So film, TV. Oh, you're that girl from Supernatural. Oh, it's the guy from Babylon 5. I'd have to tell you, who are you? I play Wrench. Oh, wow. Like, it takes them a second to like do the math, you know what I mean? But that's fine. It gives you a more dedicated fan base. And when I did the con, Montreal Comic Con, we literally had people from literally all over the world flew in specifically to that con to meet us. Brazil, England, the States, just all over the place. People came just to see us, which was amazing. So, we spent time with our fans, went out, had some food with them, and it was just great. I'd do it again.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love giving back to the communities because, in a sense, they're what kind of push us forward as actors. Like, our work's for us, but if I do my work for an empty room, right? No one plays the game or connects to my character, then what am I doing, right? So I love it. I love it for meeting the fans and just the atmosphere. Plus, the film nerd in me also doesn't mind the fact that, when I did Montreal Comic Con, I got to hang out in the green room. So I got to meet and see, and Jason Isaacs and David Tennant, Tia Carrere,
Yes.
Kevin Sorbo. Oh my God, there's so many, like, Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman. I lost my goddamn mind when I met him. I was blabbering like an idiot. It was
Yes.
I was like, oh, Mr. I'm such a fag.
Yes, I know that.
No composure for me. But it was lovely. I got to meet, the guy who voices Mario, and just all sorts of actors. John Rhys Davies, Nathan Fillion photobombed a photo we were taking. We're in the parking garage, and he just sticks his head into the back of our photo. He's like, Fillion, So that kind of thing is amazing. I love meeting fans. That's great. But meeting people I look up to is nice too. And it's really flattering for your ego. You're like, wow, I'm in the same room with these people.
Yes.
Like, it's not like, well, you're VIP minus. You have to stand in the corner over there.
Yeah. It's like
Nathan Fillion was standing over here. It's like, I
mm-hmm.
had pizza with Jason Isaacs, and he told me about this app he used to play tennis when he was traveling with people. I'm like, oh, because none of us talk about work too. And that's another thing is, it's lovely to meet these people when they're not at the table, because now they're just in the green room. They're not trying for anybody. They're not putting on a persona.
They're not just actors. They're people.
Yeah, they're just chilling. Like I remember, like, who was it? Like someone, like this beautiful woman who's always doing, I forget her name, but she's always doing like, she's always glamorous when you see her, and then she's just kind of sitting slumped in her chair with a slice of pizza, paper plate, on her chest, having some wine. I'm like, yes, you get some. You relax, be you. It's a safe space back here, So, but that's part of it too. Is just the attention is nice and all that. You got to be careful not to let it go to your head. You know what I mean? That's why I always make sure. That's why I always make sure to take time to give back to the fans, because I want to stay grounded always.
Yes.
I don't ever
stay close to people that raised you up.
Yeah, exactly. And it's easy. It's easy. It's really easy as an actor to delude yourself into thinking that you're better than other people because everyone treats you differently, right? Can I get you some water? Here's your trailer. Oh, we're ready for it. Let me get this. Everyone's always doting on you. And that's fine. They do it because they need things to move along. But, you got to remember, okay, but, everyone's here working towards the same goal. That guy who picks me up for my call at 5 in the morning, well, he was up at 3 in the morning, and he's going to get to bed 3 hours later than I'm going to. So he deserves more respect, I think, than I do, because he's working harder than I am. But I'm the face of it, right? So it's a slippery slope, But one good way to stay grounded is just make the time to connect with your fans. And there's no excuse, I find, in this day and age with Twitter and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Someone writes to me, I'm like, hey, thanks for being a fan, send. That took me like 4 seconds and like 2 calories. Not a big deal, right? And then they'll be like, oh my God, Shawn Baichoo just answered me. Dude, you made my week.
Yeah.
Okay, great. If that's
4 seconds,
that's the trade-off, I'm all for it. How can I say no to that? If I'm brightening someone's day just by literally doing the bare minimum, I'm not composing a dedicated video to them that's going to take me an hour's time to whatever. I do that stuff on Cameo, and that's more transactional. They're not an hour long, but I do that over there. But just responding, having some decency, especially if someone takes the time to like draw a beautiful picture of ranch or fan art, or here's my tribute to Lion. Sure, respond. Hey, great work. Keep it up. It's amazing. Love your work.
Yeah, thanks for thinking of me for the 4 hours it took you to draw this.
Yeah, you took the time to tag me, and plus, I kind of inspired this person to do it because, in a sense, they are connecting to the character that I give life to. So, my mama raised me right that you show gratitude, you show deference, you show respect, and kindness is free. It doesn't cost you anything to be nice to people. So, I want to keep that as my guiding principle. You know what I mean? But it's love. I love meeting fans. As soon as the pandemic is under control and that becomes more of a normal thing, it's something I absolutely want to get back to.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think the next question is mine. And in asking this question, kind of brings to light all the stuff we've recently been talking about over the past however long we've been talking. Taking all of that into consideration, how do you deal with the stress and the pressure and all the stuff that's come? Like, I know you have an agent that takes care of a lot of that, but like, how do you deal with all of it that falls on your shoulders?
That's a good question. Actually, I don't get asked that a lot. How are you, Shawn? Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It can get stressful. I think an example that perfectly illustrates the kind of stress it can cause is I'm currently in the process of putting up this duplex I live in for sale, which is lovely because we're going to look for a home. My wife and I am really excited. We're finally going to get the place of our dreams, more or less, hopefully. And we only really got to do that because this place kind of increased in value over time. Now, real estate's kind of the way to go, and the housing market right now is crazy. So it's kind of a but when I first bought this place with my friends, like my wife and I bought it with another couple that we know, so we split the cost, which made it a lot more accessible. I remember I woke up at 3 a.m. I just woke up and my brain's like, you have a mortgage and you're an actor. What the fuck were you thinking? And I had a full-blown like existential crisis where I'm like, what am I doing? I can't ever stop working. I have to succeed. My wife's not earning much money right now. This is all on me. I've got a certain amount I got to make every month. Like, I started kind of like spiraling out of control. I mean, I got myself together and it's been fine. I'm doing, but I'm saying those are the kind of things that can just take you right out of the game because it's fun. So direct means I've had coping with stress and what helped me get to where I am today to stick through it. I think I'd have to give that credit to my wife. And here's why. Because when I first started acting, she and I started dating in theater school, actually. So we've been together for 6 years now, which is kind of crazy.
You got married in 2005, right?
Yeah, so we've been, you did your research.
My research name's Vicky, I know that.
Yes, good. Wow, I'm impressed. A little scared, but impressed. Yeah, Vicky and I started dating in 1996, but we got married in 2005. So the first 10 years of my career was like working jobs as a waiter, doing a bit of theater, independent film. No, not a real, maybe a commercial here, a tiny bit part there and a voice thing, but nothing really,
It's not going to be like, you're not going to pay the bills off of
right.
Right now.
Again, I have to build up like we talked about. So in those years, I'd have lean periods where nothing was happening. And my wife's attitude was always, you focus on your career. You do what you need to do to get where you need to go. I'll take care of finances. She took out like an extra, like a bank loan to keep supporting us a few times. And I was like, I can't keep living like this. We don't have any money. Like, I feel like I'm freeloading. I'm going to go get a job. She's like, no, if you get a job, you're not going to be an actor. You just focus on the job. And like, she kind of kept me focused. And in time, that built up so much that I got to realize my dream, which was one day I want to flip that. And I'd be the one who supports my wife and let her pursue her goals, her dreams, which we've done now, which is amazing. We're going to be buying a house, so we can't be doing that poorly. But that was my best coping mechanism, to have a partner like that who believed in me and allowed me the freedom and the space to find my career. Now, I realize that's not necessarily a piece of advice I can give people. Want to be an actor? Just get a woman who will find faith in you for decades at a time and support you no matter what. Then hopefully it'll all work out. Like, I realize how absolutely rare that is, but I don't want to do a disservice to her by not acknowledging that. You know what I mean? Like, that is me the number. I mean, yes, I was, perseverance and, I've had bad months and good months and bad years. And sometimes I feel down or I get depressed or I have anxiety and I'm human. So, but everyone has that in their jobs, right? So I just deal with it, spend time with my loved ones. I'm very much into private time, self-care. I love playing video games, having my own little world space to exist in. And again, my wife fully supports that. She's not like, it's mere video games. Like, it's nothing like that. Like, she'll be like, "Oh, can you play The Witcher? I want to watch you play Witcher."
Yes.
One of my favorite games. So she's very supportive. She's not much of a gamer, but she loves my gaming. So we have this great partnership. So I really feel like she's the wind beneath my wings, if I can use a cheesy expression. Like that's how I dealt with things, is thanks to her. I really don't think I'd be where I am now if it wasn't for that support. I think I may have quit or maybe allowed myself to drift into other less fulfilling things that had more security in them.
That is adorable. I am not going to cry right now.
You can't.
I'm good. I'm good. That is adorable, and I really like that, because a lot of I guess a lot of the times we hear actors and people thanking the people that have helped them and stuff. It's usually like my director and my coworker in this, but you don't really hear a lot of behind the scenes. So I think that's a really sweet thing to hear. I like that.
Well, thank you. People are always thanking God, and that's fine. You can thank God if you believe in God. You thank the director; he's very much responsible. But at the core of every performance, there's a person, and at the core of every person, there's emotion. There's life, and how that's managed. And hey, kitty, how that's managed. The kitty wants to see the lion. I get it. It's fine.
It does. She's here. Oh,
how you care for that core that you bring to yourself, that you bring to your part, that translates to a performance. How you manage that, to me, is super important. So that's why I mentioned my support system, because if I was always worried about money, or I was tired because I didn't have time, I have to do everything myself because I'm alone, I'm single, it'd be a lot harder. A little aside that I think is an interesting observation, just because my wife and I have talked about this and she agrees with me, and it's not a bad thing, but like, I also do believe that if I was less committed to my wife, if I was less focused on spending time with her, being home, being present, living in Montreal, if I was much more focused on my career, I think I could be more successful as an actor, work on bigger projects, make more money, but I wouldn't be as happy, right?
Yeah.
That's that balance I'm always striving to make. I'm really happy I get to stay in my hometown. There's enough work for me to work as an actor. I just want to work. I don't want to be famous. I just want to work. And I want to, do fun projects, which I get to do, and still go home at night, see my wife. We don't have any kids. We have a dog, though. We love our dog.
Yes.
So my wife and my dog, like, that's all I need in life. That's like my game plan. That's what motivates me. That's what keeps me going. But other people want fortune, they want to travel. I don't want to travel much because it takes me away from my home. But it depends what you want, But for me, I think I'm really blessed to have found that balance here, and I want to keep that going. People say, "Oh, why don't you go to New York or Toronto or LA?" And I'm like, I'm actually too busy working to consider taking the trip. So that kind of answers the question. Like, if I'm too busy to leave, then why leave? And I don't want to start again as a relatively unknown somewhere else in a new city. I got a good thing going here.
Yeah.
Man, you've got such a good head on your shoulders. This is
Thanks.
Not gonna lie, it's by far one of the favorite interviews I've co-hosted so far.
Oh, well, thank you, Harley. It's very flattering. I think you guys are great, and I love the questions you're asking me. They're not some are more standardized, of course. We don't have all the same. Everyone who interviews you doesn't have the same crossover audience, but like, you guys are asking some really interesting questions that I've actually never been asked before, that I think are really
good.
Searching and of use to people, because I often do talk to people who want to, they're a bit inspired by what I do, maybe they want to do what I do, and they want to know, how do I go from completely clueless, I could never do what you do, to, you clearly exist, Shawn. It's clearly possible, and you're not some removed figure I could never talk to or reach. You're clearly a real person, sit around in my pajamas at night and watch TV like anybody else. I'm not like, I'm on my jet eating caviar with, Arnold Schwarzenegger discussing
the mythical Shawn.
Seldom seen, often heard. Like, I want to be accessible to people, because I'm not saying what I do is easy, but I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just, you need a certain mindset to get there. You know what I mean? Yes. So I think it's interesting. You're like, oh, you got a good head on your shoulders. And I agree. I think I think I have to be here, because people I know who are driven by ego or greed or selfishness or fame, they tend to not last, because those things peter out after a while. They don't sustain you, and they're kind of end game goals that if you don't get them, you consider yourself a failure. Whereas, it's the old adage: "What do you do for a living?" "I'm an actor." You're an actor? Cool. What have you been? Have you done anything? Have you done anything?
Yeah.
Have I done anything? I've been acting for 25 years. Of course I've done stuff. Do you play video games? Well, no. There you go.
Yeah.
That's where I find my work. Doesn't make me less of an actor. Actors aren't just famous people. The vast majority of actors aren't famous.
Yes.
The woman who does the voice of Siri, your GPS navigation voice, the guy who narrates that commercial, the product you like. You know what I mean? I mean, the voice piping in at that ride at Disneyland, that's an actor too.
Yes.
Where.
And sometimes your voices get discovered, and it's like, oh my gosh, I know who this person is.
Sure, and that's flattering too. Someone's like, "Are you in this game?" I'm like, "Holy shit! I didn't even announce that game. You recognize me? Wow, that's
It's like a thank you.
It can happen. It can happen. I don't want to cut this short, but I am running out of time. But I know we have gone through a lot because I tend to yap a lot. But we could eat I don't know how many questions you have left, but if you want,
I have like 2 left.
Okay, that's fine. Because if not, we can do like a lightning round or something. If it's 2 questions, that's fine. I don't want to rush things.
It's fine.
All right.
Okay, this is an important one. What is your favorite type of pizza and pizza place?
Ooh, another question I've never been asked. I'm loving this interview. My favorite type of pizza, I believe, is like a thin crust, tomato sauce, cheese, bacon, and mushroom.
Delicious.
And on occasion, I know I'm going to lose some viewers with this. On occasion, I don't know why, I crave and I love anchovies. I know most people think anchovies are fucking gross, and they are to most people. My wife hates them. But sometimes when I want like some salty goodness, I love seafood too, so I don't mind that they're fishy smelling. Some anchovies on my pizza is just heaven. I love it. I love it.
I'm sure I'll get anchovies someday, but
on occasion, it's okay. You got to ease into it. And on occasion, I actually like the heathen pizza, which is pepperoni pineapple. I see it a lot online. People are like, pineapple should never be a pizza. But here in Quebec, the province I'm in, Quebec, it's called La Québécoise. It's called the Quebecer in sense, like a Quebec. I don't know why, because pineapple isn't local here, but anyway. But I don't usually eat pineapple. My favorite is, like I said, mushroom bacon with occasionally anchovies. And favorite pizza place? You mean like restaurant? I don't really have one, and I'm sounding a bit like a stick in the mud here, but I used to enjoy pizza a lot more. Some years ago, I started switching up my diet. I started cutting out sugar and dairy products, just because, as I get older, my body's like, you don't like this anymore. You can't eat as much of that. You want it anymore. I'd rather my body warn me that I don't want something and I can stay fit, as opposed to, oh, it's bad for you. You're just going to get fat now. So takeout pizza order in is very rare. I'll have that now because I find it a bit too greasy, a bit too cheesy. But my wife is an amazing cook, and she often sometimes makes like homemade oven pizza, like naan bread or something, and with some toppings. That's awesome. So I don't really have a favorite pizza place. Back in the day, though, I used to love Pizza Hut because
yeah,
it's Pizza Hut.
I miss the diners. The buffet diners, I missed that.
Which one? Sorry.
When they had the buffets, we could walk in with the colored plates and get whatever you wanted.
Yeah. Yep.
I miss that so much.
Yeah, I miss eating out because I haven't gone to a restaurant in a year and a half, like since the pandemic.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
I went out to breakfast a couple times, sat outside on the terrace, but sit down meal, like restaurant, I haven't done that, and I'm dying to. So I think we might treat ourselves soon.
Pick a good one. Pick a good one. Be like,
yes, and, we're vaccinated now. A lot of people are vaccinated.
There you go.
We're not as worried, about that.
Yeah.
So that was a great question. What's the last question?
Well, I have one, and it's I don't know how to put it. It goes back to your voice acting and stuff. But like when you're told that you're going to voice a character, like when you look at them and you see them as a I guess their own entity, how do you decide who they're going to be and what voice you're going to give them?
Another great question.
Thank you.
Yeah, really, seriously, guys, these are fantastic.
You kindly.
It depends on the character and the project. Like, for example, in Watchdogs 2, when they did the vertical slice of the game, like the demo, the director wanted to go against type instead of casting some like gruff tough guy as Wrench, because his character render was very like, spikes and the whole thing. He's like, I'd love to get Shawn's manic energy and comedic sensibilities and juxtapose the two and take a bit of a risk. And I thought that paid off incredibly well. So in that case, he sent me references. He's like, oh, I want you to be a bit like this guy from Mr. Robot and whatever. I didn't really know the show, but my inspiration growing up for that kind of zany manic energy was Jim Carrey, right? I was a huge fan of Ace Ventura. I used to imitate him in theater school all the time. And do the Jim Carrey thing, oh, righty then.
Yes.
I was always doing that in school. My teachers fucking hated it. But if you listen to Wrench, if you watch his performance and you keep that in mind, you feel like, oh, that's actually quite Jim Carrey. Like that energy, the way he talks, and even like a high-pitched voice thing he does, So like that was just me filling the shoes the guy set, the director set for me. Like I didn't work the voice. I actually was more manic off the top. I remember he's like, for our first take, he's like, go all out. I'm like, all out? Do you know who you're dealing with here? He's like, all out. I'm like, okay, don't say you weren't warned.
You asked for this.
Exactly. We did a take. I went all out. He comes back after the take. He's like, okay, maybe we'll take it down 10-15%.
Gotta reel it back in a little bit.
So Wrench used to be even senior. We didn't find the character right away. We found him over time. But then once I was locked in, like by the time I came back as Wrench for Legion, I didn't have to do any research or look at old videos. Like Wrench is in me. He lives in me now. I know who he is. I can pull him out like that, no matter the situation, and he's there, Whereas Lion, I was kind of just doing an imitation of someone I'd heard,
Really?
When I'm working with this guy, all right, guys, we're going to work today on the assassins, all right? We're going to do this, we're going to do that. Shawn, I want you to jump down here, throw your dagger, okay? Right? That's how they spoke. So
that is so cool.
When they needed, a level of Parisian French that wasn't too Parisian, but still accessible and understandable, but not stereotypical. Most people who do French, they will talk like this, right? But the French people don't talk like this. That's a caricature, right? Most people, it's more subtle. You know what I mean? Dialects are almost always much more subtle than they're portrayed. But you learn them as a caricature, and you can scale it back, right? So Lion, I just kind of trotted out this voice that I thought fit, and they cast me. Whereas I got a job some years ago dubbing a cartoon that was originally done in French, and they wanted to hire a few actors to do a lot of parts. So at the audition, they're like, pick as many characters as you want, audition for as many as you want. I'm like, okay. So I went to the table and I'm like, yeah, I can do this. Yeah, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And I picked up like 10 or 12 different, and I'm like, they're going to think I'm greedy, I'm crazy. But I nailed each one, right?
There you go.
I knew they were in my wheelhouse, and they'd give me a reference, right? They're like, oh, this character is like this salty Nova Scotian, like, what a sea captain talks like that, but like a French version of that. So I listened to the reference, and I'm like, okay, now that I have a point of reference, I know what to go for. I do my version, and I got cast literally as 8 different characters in that show. An Irishman and an old man and a this and a that. So like in that case, the voices I chose were me basing it off of a reference of previous work because it was done in another language. Whereas I did a self-tape the other day for some cartoon movie that's coming out that they need actors for, and they submitted 2 characters, and one of them was like a little cartoon animal, like a rabbit or something, and he has glasses, big buck teeth, and his hair standing up. So yeah, so when I see that kind of character, this voice just starts to come out naturally. I listen to a reference. What's the show like? What's the tone of it? Oh, it's for kids. Okay, so I get an idea. So I mean, that's the research maybe that goes into it, but it's literally, do you have a reference? Let me look at it. Okay, I know this guy has a voice in my head now. I'm going to do that voice. And then when I'm auditioning or doing self-tapes at home, I'll go into my booth and I'll try different variations on it and listen back and go, what sounds best? Do I want a clear voice? Do I want something more nasal? Or maybe I want something with a bit more rasp in the back of the voice? Or what fits? And then when I connect to something like, okay, that's the voice. And then I push that through and see if that's what they want for the audition. And then sometimes you just go off of a description. So, it's like, it's a battle game and there's like a tank commander, and the tank commander is like tough, Spanish accent. He's tough, and he's impulsive. Okay, so I can do a Spanish accent. I've practiced it before, so I start by putting that on, for example. And then, maybe the guy's tough, and maybe he talks like this, or maybe I'll make him talk like this, or I don't know. Like, I'll try different things, combine what I know, and also what I like. Like, I'm like, oh, this guy reminds me of a character from StarCraft. I love StarCraft, so maybe I'll use that as an inspiration, Maybe make him sound like a bit of a bumpkin, like he's an SCV driver, Then maybe I'll make him Spanish like that guy and make him kind of stupid sounding with and then you combine things. I'm like, oh, that's unique. That fits. That works. I'll go with that. So I know that's not a clear answer, but it's not an academic process for me. It's more like, what do I connect with? Because ultimately, I do a lot of coaching. I coach a lot of actors for auditions or for scenes. And what I'm always telling them is, ultimately, what do you connect with? I can't make you connect with something, right?
If you connect with something, then they will connect with something.
Exactly. If I don't believe myself, no one will believe me. It just doesn't work that way, because what we're doing is inherently false. No, I'm not having a romantic scene with this woman on the beach. Yes, I'm on the beach, but there's a camera crew right there. And there's a guy 5 feet to my left holding a giant reflector, and I'm screaming at her and she's crying, and then they yell cut. Okay, that's lunch. We go have lunch. Her and I are joking over lunch. I show her a photo of my dog, and then we go back and you know what I mean? Like, none of that's natural, right? So, you need to find that connectivity. Like, I was coaching a client of mine the other day, and she really didn't like the scene she had. It wasn't very well written, and it was asking her character to do things she wasn't comfortable with, and I could tell she felt bad for speaking up. She's like, I don't feel comfortable. What do I do? I'm like, don't do it. Like, I can't coach you to act like you like something you don't like. It's going to be flat. It's not going to be believable. So instead, she spoke to the director, communicated her points in a non-accusatory way, and saying, look, I don't think this works, and this is a bit weird. And the director's like, okay, cool. And he kind of rewrote the scene, reworked it, and now she connects with it. Now I can coach her and direct her, and now she can do a good performance because she identifies with something. So like, so like Wrench is such a good character for me, because like Wrench is, 85% me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't walk around antagonizing the cops. I'm not a very good hacker. I don't have a sledgehammer. We're different that way. But my sense of humor is very similar. What Wrench loves, I love.
References.
Exactly, and it's easier as an actor to focus on, to harness whatever truth is available to you from the get-go. You know what I mean? Like, if I had to play something awful, like a serial killer or a pedophile or a rapist, let's say, those are all experiences that are so far removed from my experience. I'd have to do a lot of work, a lot of study, right? I wouldn't be like, pedophile, yay, I can't, like, people would have questions, understandably so. And part of me would be like, oh man, this is going to be rough. Like, I love kids. I wouldn't want to ever hurt a child, and like,
Yeah.
but that's also part of the escapism and the challenge of acting is
somebody you're not.
Exactly, pushing yourself into areas you've never been before, right? So it's kind of a balance of the two. You can get to play characters that you connect with and that are really you, like Wrench or whoever I played in Assassin's Creed, and then I played a violent street punk squeegee guy in a movie I shot like freaking 12 years ago or something. He was like a skinhead guy with a leather jacket, and he beats his girlfriend. He's just an awful person. But like I also did really good work there, because even though I was like, yeah, well, I'm a wife beater and a terrible person, so I just trotted that out on the screen. Instead, like, I had to delve into what motivates this guy. Why is he like that? And then I started connecting parts of my life, my relationship with my father, or me being bullied as a kid, or my anxiety or depression, and you feed your character with things that fit the character, but also that you can identify and connect to.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you find that truth. So what I love about acting is you're always challenging yourself in new ways, and as destabilizing as the uncertainty could be, I might not work for 2 weeks, 2 months. I doubt I wouldn't work for 2 years. Like, I usually work every few weeks at the very least. But what I love is in that uncertainty is the next big opportunity for me could be right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
I could get a phone call from my agent in 5 minutes from now that'll change my life, right? I might not. When they said, hey, we're working on this game called Watchdogs 2 because you worked on Watchdogs and the director knows you, wants you to come in for the vertical slice, but you're probably not going to get the part because they're probably going to hire someone more famous than you. And I'm like, that's fine. I just want to work. You know what I mean? Like, I never realized then that I'd be, in the sequel after that,
Mm-hmm.
doing more stuff and getting even more, like, you never know what's going to
be. Badass.
Yeah. Lion was supposed to be a one and done. But now he's going to be in Extraction. He's a part of the gang. Who knows what they're going to do with the character, So as long as you can, like, buoy yourself with your self-confidence and a support system, whether it's a partner, self-care, some combination of the two, friends, whatever, as long as I can keep functioning under those circumstances, and anyone who wants to do this, you have like a safety net that you're not going to just fall through the cracks and want to hang yourself or something because nothing's working. To me, that's part of the thrill of what I do. It's a delicate balancing act, but if I'm being honest, I count way more victories than I ever count defeats. You know what I mean? If I do 10 auditions and I get half a day of voice work from one of the auditions, that's a victory.
Yeah.
9 failures, that's one victory.
Yeah.
And then you do it and you put it aside and you work on this and you work on that and you work on this. And then 3 years from now, the guy who was the writer for the game you just did a half a day on, he remembered you, he liked you, he's the director now of a new project, a much bigger project. Shawn, I'd like you to come in and read for the lead or for a bigger part because I like you, I like working with you, right? You never know what's coming down the pipeline. That's why I'm also always sure to be polite and nice and appreciative to everyone. I mean, if it's deserved, of course, I don't blanket do that to people who are mean to me, but I mean, everyone's nice. I don't really come across a lot of friction because you never know. And also, you should always be decent to people, regardless of what it can do for you.
You don't know what they're going through, and
And so much of the work I do today is through connections, through recommendations, through people who know my work or spoke to people or like, hey man, I'm doing a project. I need a guy who can do this. And I'm gonna go, Shawn, what? Shawn Baichoo, call him. He can do exactly what you just said. He's a good voice actor. He can do dialects. He's a martial artist. That's what you need for this project. That person's gonna go, great. You just solved a problem.
Awesome.
Instead of, let me hold a casting session, 8 hours, 30 actors, to maybe not even find the person I want or settle for someone who doesn't quite fit the bill. So it's not quite nepotism. I don't want to call it that because I don't feel like it is. It's not friends doing me favors. It's people cashing in on what I can offer. But it's a nice place to be. It's where I've always wanted to be as an actor, and I'm really happy and proud to be able to say I'm kind of there now. I'm in a place where, I still audition, and I still, you know, aim for certain things, but a chunk of my work comes from either past things coming back or people from my past wanting to work with me again on new things. And every new project always means potentially days, weeks, months, a franchise. You never know, right? Video games just get bigger all the time. So to me, it's a super exciting environment to be in. Sure, you'll have games that don't go anywhere. And that's fine too. I've been in those as well. But to me, that's an exciting thing. You know, it keeps me hopeful for what's to come and kind of balances out the darker days. So, you know, now I'm in this place where it's a mix of auditions and work that comes to me. I don't want to rest on my laurels. I want to keep pushing to do greater things. But I have a confidence and the peace from that I can appreciate and look back and pat myself on the back and go, good job, man. You're doing good. Keep going. Just keep, you know, it's my fuel. It's the wind beneath my wings. It's kind of pushing me forward.
Keeping you up there.
Yeah, it's a good place to be. And I know a lot of actors like that now. And I'm glad to see that. Like, so many people struggled alongside me when we were coming up. And now I see, like, one of my good friends, Amber, she's a local actor, Amber Goldbard, wonderful woman. She just got married.
Congratulations.
Yes, I went to her wedding with my wife. First time we'd been to any event in a year and a half. It was lovely. And a bunch of actors were there. Actors I don't see because most of them live in Toronto, and she's an actor and she goes back and forth. And I was so thrilled to talk to everybody. And I'm like, hey, you're on Kim's Convenience and you're the voice of this person in this major video game coming up. Oh my God, congratulations. Like, everyone's thriving, you know. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people are thriving.
Most people thriving.
And that's lovely because I'd feel weird if I was doing great and everyone's like, well, good for you, Shawn. We're starving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I love seeing everyone else kind of getting their own and coming into their own. And what's nice about Montreal, it's a very supportive community. Everyone here uplifts everybody else to the point it's even happened to me where, like, I could even get a submission for something and be like, I could audition for this, but do you know who'd be fucking great for this? This person, you know, like, dude, did you hear about this? Because you should audition, you know, as opposed to
helping others helps you.
Yeah, I want the part. I don't want to say anything, you know, in case he sees the casting. So it's a small community.
Yeah.
And everyone uplifts everybody else because of it. And that's lovely because I hear other environments are not always great for that. They can be backstabby or, you know, competitive or toxic. And,
yeah.
You know, there's enough pitfalls in the business.
It's not fun.
Yeah. And I'll admit, I have a lot of fun doing what I do. And to me, that's probably the most valuable aspect is my job. I never even really consider it a job. It's not just play. I take it seriously. I treat it professionally. But a day never comes so far. Yeah, I've never had a day where I wake up in the morning, I go, oh, I have voice today. Oh, I'm playing Lion. Awesome. It's never like, oh, gotta go do mocap for 8 hours. Like, never.
Yeah.
Because part of me realizes 1,000 guys behind me would kill for that work. You know what I mean? So I want to remain grateful and humble and appreciative. So I'm just riding the wave, doing the best I can, taking my accomplishments where they come, giving back when I can, and hoping for the best.
You're like the golden retriever of voice actors. You're just
I genuinely say I've never had that compliment level before. But I love dogs. I'm going to take that as a huge compliment.
Dogs are awesome. I'm stuck with these things.
I got nothing against cats, but I'm a dog guy. And I'm allergic, so it's hard for me to be around cats.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you for being on the show.
Fun. I'm sorry?
Is my audio not coming through?
No, I just didn't hear what you said, but I heard you speak.
I said thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you so very much.
Yeah, guys, you know, I feel like we could have talked about more stuff. We didn't run out of time. So if you guys want to again, hit me up. I'd be more than happy to come back on. Yeah, I like chatting with people, and yeah, that'd be wonderful. So thanks for having me.
All right, it is time for the outro. Same as the intro, but slightly different words. Thank you guys for watching. It's cosplay time. As always, I have been Chris, aka Mr. Zoom _2028.
I am Harley Francis. You can find me on TikTok at Harley_F.Quinn or on Instagram at Gotham Gal Cosplay.
And I've been Shawn Baichoo, actor and voice of Lion, and you can find me on Twitter at Shawn Baichoo and on Instagram at Choobai, CHOOBAI. I also have a website, which is just ShawnBaichoo.com, and I think a Facebook fan page, but I don't update that very often. So social media is best Twitter and Instagram if you want to find me. And I'm also on Cameo. I keep forgetting to plug this. Cameo is a service where you can get actors, all sorts of actors, not just me, to do shout outs, birthday greetings, recorded messages, usually a video that's around 30 seconds to a minute long. So you can find me on Cameo under Shawn Baichoo. And yeah, I'd be more than happy to meet people's fans' requests. I've already done 24 of them, and I find them a lot of fun. And yeah, thanks for having me on again, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, let's see if I can get the recording to stop in one press.